welcome my guest, Pastor. Can you pronounce your first name for me?
Lascha.
Lascha. And I'm
Yes.
always getting my name pronounced incorrectly, as you can imagine. And so I try hard not to do that with other people because I get called everything. Like some names are not even close to the letters that are in my names. I don't even know where they get it from. So anyway, Pastor Lascha, it is such an honor to have you here today. And
Thank
as
you.
I said, I appreciate you taking time to help me honor my mother by sharing your stories and your experiences as a mother. Um,
Mhm.
First, I like to start with asking you, what is your current occupation? What do you do every day?
Every day, I work with Wells Fargo Bank. I'm a IT, sort of like a small business specialist, online banking, and so that's what I do every day. Outside of ministry, which is also every day.
Yes,
Gotta
yes,
encourage someone, pray for someone, just be available for
yes.
whatever God has. He told us in His Word, of course, to be instant in season and out of season.
That's
So
right.
that means be ready anytime.
That's right. And it's a full-time job, I tell you,
It is.
because even with being without being even more so now that a lot of churches are still not within the building, we're really being forced to see what ministry really is about outside the four walls because there's a lot of work to be done. And even now, during this pandemic, the people that have a heart for God and have a heart for people have not ceased to be finding ways to minister. And so I applaud you for that. And I see sometimes as you share, even on Facebook, some of the things that you're doing. And I'm blessed and I'm impressed with your spirit and your love for God and for God's people. And that's one of the reasons why I invited you to join me, because I know you're also a mother, which, in my opinion, is a whole ministry all to itself. And so I wanted to talk to some of my sister friends who are mothers and have them share with us. So, as of right now, and I know you have a lot more living to do, but at right now, as of today, what would you say your greatest achievement is?
Greatest achievement. Hmm. Well, first of all, let me just say there would be no achievements without God. So I can't take any credit for all that I have gone through, but He has brought me through so much. The greatest achievements, I would say, God bring me through breast cancer twice, in the midst of raising two little girls who did not know that their life was being flipped upside down or how it would pan out or what would happen. So being able to raise them and in the midst of being sick, and then in the midst of my well, she was 10 then, my youngest daughter at that time, she was also diagnosed with lymphoma and was near death, and so we were both fighting together. So I think the greatest achievement is was just to learn more about how God works in the midst of sickness and disease and infirmity, and just knowing that just because, our first thought is that everybody's dying from all of this. However, God let me know, He said, this is not unto death, because at first I thought, this what is happening, this has got to be, we not gonna make it through this, especially her, because she did pass twice, and they God brought her back. So it was just like, it's no way in the world we're gonna make it through this. And I was like, God, if you take her, you might as well take me, because there is no
Yes.
me, without my children. So I was just like, there's no way that I just didn't feel like I could make it through. And I think after so many weeks of laboring and just being hurt and being in confusion and not really understanding why this was happening, because I still had another daughter at home. She's not that much older. And for her to think I'm losing my mother and my sister, and
Yes.
for God to finally come through after I had cried and prayed and cried and prayed so many nights in the hospital with my child, that this is not unto death. And at that point, I feel like, what, God, okay, well then just take us on through. So I think that in itself, showing them how to fight in spite of,
Yes. Yes.
is the
Yes.
greatest achievement ever.
And that's awesome. And the thing is, like, I know this applies to all the other people who love the Lord and walk with the Lord or whatever, but since we're talking about mothers, I think it's amazing the strength that a mother possesses that she doesn't even often realize she has it until she needs it. Because we will fight to the bitter end for our children, whether it's a physical illness or emotional, or if somebody's bothering them or whatever, like that whole mother bear thing comes out. And it's like, okay, Lord, my baby is sick now, and I'm gonna need you to take care of this. And it's like, no matter what they're going through, you're there because you feel it. It's like,
Yes.
even though you birth them outside of your body, their
Mhm.
sin still seems like sometimes they're still in there. It's like, it's that still
Yes.
connection. Like when
Yes.
they hurt, you hurt. And
Yeah.
I feel that, man, I tell you, and God is so faithful. He's so faithful to us. And even when we don't do everything we're supposed to do, we don't say everything we're supposed to say, or we go deliberately being hard-headed against what he told us to do. When we finally get back to where we're supposed to be, he's still waiting for us.
Yes.
Like, okay, now you ready? Let's get this show on the road.
Yes. Yes.
I'm thankful for that. And so you have two daughters, you just have two girls?
I have three girls. Actually, I have, well, again, my oldest two now 28 and 26. And then I have a 14-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And the doctors told me I would never be pregnant again or never be able to bear children because I had taken so much chemotherapy and radiation. My body had been through it.
Yeah.
And so she was a surprise. She was clearly a miracle from God, because I was like, now I know what I was told now.
That's right.
So she popped up on us.
That's funny, because my sons are 40 and 28. And
Wow.
somebody said to me, "Oh, you don't look like you have a son that's 40 years old." I said, "Well, I feel like I have one that's 40 years old." And so whether I look like it or not, I have
Right.
one. And there's such a difference, because that age difference is like starting all over again. When the
Yeah.
second one came, and I was not prepared either. And I literally, when I went to the doctor, because I thought I had the flu, I was so sick. And when don't laugh, when they came back in that room and told me that I was pregnant, I remember falling flat, like falling back on the table. Like I didn't even look back there or nothing. I just fell out on the table and cried until I went to sleep. I am not kidding. The next thing I know, the nurse was tapping me
Helping you about the floor.
on the arm. She said, "Miss Green, you feel better yet? Because we need this room." And I'm looking around like, where in the world? I was so embarrassed. But
That's all
anyway,
right.
that was the start of that journey. All right. Moving on. I often speak with mothers who, including myself, I've experienced this as well, who have periods of your life where you feel like you didn't do the best by your children, whether you were in bad relationships and the kids were affected, or you didn't have money to provide for them, whatever. And so some of them are sharing with me that even though their children are grown, they still feel some guilt about some of the mistakes, their bad choices that they made that affected their children. How do you feel about that? Can you relate to that at all?
Can I relate? I'm living it right now. As a matter of fact.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, I was married to all of my girls' father. We had been together for almost 28 years. We've been married for 21 years. And after 21 years, I walked away. During the time of us being sick, and during the time of them growing up, those very, the years that little girls need their daddy the most, he just wasn't there. He wasn't around. He was doing his own thing, living his own life, just we were young and in love, or whatever you call it. I don't know, but I decided I decided to stay longer than I should have, and I thought that I was undoing what happened in my life. My father wasn't there. My mother wasn't with my father, and I didn't want to have my kids in a broken home. You know how when we're kids and we see things and we endure different things, and we say, "Oh, well, when I grow up and have kids, we ain't doing it like that.
I'm not going to put my
we stand together." Yeah, so it's like we stand together. We gonna be together, and I really didn't realize the damage that I was doing to my children with a mindset of doing what was best for them. Well, I know we just want to stay in a 2-family home, and I want my kids to have their father, even if they really don't have their father here. And so now that they're older, both of my girls have experienced some very traumatic, they have post-traumatic syndrome distress. I'll be honest. You need me to.
This is my son calling that's incarcerated.
This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Oh no, Queen.
Hello, sweetheart. I'm actually in the middle of doing one of those Zoom interviews that I was telling you about with one of the mothers.
I don't have long anyway. I just wanted to make sure you was
Yes, I'm fine. And I always want to hear your voice to make sure you're okay. So.
Yeah, I'm good. All right, I'm gonna try and call you tomorrow then.
Okay, I love you.
All right, I love you too.
Okay.
All right, baby. Good. Family is love.
Family is forever.
All right, Queen. God bless you.
God bless you too. Okay then. I felt like bad about that, but I didn't. I'm like, I can't. It's not like I can call him back.
Right. Absolutely.
And with the COVID thing, like you don't know when you're gonna hear from them. And some days they get 15 minutes every other day out of themselves. And in that 15 minutes, they have to shower and call their family. That's crazy to me.
Yes,
But anyway, God is faithful.
Yes.
Even in that situation, God has done so much, such a turnaround in his life. And he's got a testimony that we're going to share one day soon. But I thank God for him, and talking about what we were talking about as far as making bad choices or having life events that affect your children. His father died when he was 10 months old. And, there was some bad decisions that I made after that with regard to people that were in his life. And so I've carried a lot of guilt about even some of the bad decisions he made with the law and this and that and other when he was a teenager. I felt that, like, if I had been a better mother, or if his father had lived, or there's a whole bunch of if, and the enemy will beat you over the head with that if you don't release it. And so anyway, that's one of the reasons why I address that with mothers, because there's too many of us walking around with that guilt. Because what's done is done. Right? You can't go back and fix it. And at the time, we did the best we could. What we had is what we had. So anyway, I apologize for the interruption.
It's okay.
Right. Please continue.
Not a problem. And so in their latter years, they began to act out, so to speak. My oldest daughter, her testimony is building within her, and she's releasing better now than she was before. And she made some bad choices, some bad decisions, bad dudes that she ended up with that just cost her a lot. And so, her thing was, my dad wasn't there to teach me what type of guy that I really should be with, a good guy, godly guy. So I ended up picking somebody who was doing the same things that he was doing back then. Yeah. And so unfortunately, it just caused a whole snowball of turn of events. And now I'm raising my grandson, and my granddaughter is with her great aunt, and her oldest son is with his father. And I know she loves them. And I'm just praying that one day, because she blamed me for a long time. She blamed her dad for a long time. It was just a lot of denial there, no accountability, no taking responsibility for the choices that were made. And so now she's doing a lot better. I'm still praying for my babies, all of them. But she is doing much better. She's, apologized, has been remorseful, things of that nature. And all I say at the end of the day is I want my babies to just come back to Jesus. That's all I want, because I know that if they do that, then we can move on. They can let the stuff go and we can move on. And like I tell my kids, everything that I did it for you. I did it thinking that it would be better for you, but not ever to harm you or to make you feel,
Right.
you know, anything less than who you are. And so with my middle baby, she just, she's now pregnant with her first child. And I'm like, you know,
Okay.
until you become a mother, you won't understand a lot of things that we did, a lot of decisions that we
Right.
made. You just won't until you become a mother, because there's a lot of blame being thrown. You know, you did this and you got me here, and you know, it's just a whole bunch of heartbreak, and it just gets real ugly real quick. And I see the enemy's hand, but I always also see God's hand, and I thank God for that. And I'm just praying for her, you know, that one day she will hear all that her grandmother and her other family members that truly know the Lord are instructing her. You know, you need to let that stuff go. Yes, things happen, but we've all been hurt. And I didn't realize until just last year, 49 years old, that I had childhood trauma.
Yes.
And that was just, that just came with talking to my daughter. We were having a mommy daughter talk time. And the more we talked, I was like, you know what? I said, I never even addressed my own childhood trauma. So therefore, it's not as if nothing ever happened to me, because I've been molested, I've been raped. It's been a lot of things that have happened to me that were beyond my control. But at the end of the day, you know, there are some things that I had to take responsibility for. There are some bad choices I made. I should have left that daddy a long time ago. I mean, I'm still gonna always love him, but we were not, that he was not God's soulmate for me. Let me just put it that way. So you know, for the face of ministry and things of that nature, you know, you don't want to have to divorce, and you don't want to, you know, people to say, oh my God, you know, this, that, and the other. But, but it was like this, you know, I'm gonna slip my wrist, so I gotta go. So what we doing, you know? So I had that conversation with my apostle, and I just told her, I'm sorry, I don't want to do it anymore, and I'm not willing to do it anymore. So
and you don't have to.
And I don't have to do it. And God, please forgive me, because Lord knows, I'm not saying I did everything right all 21 years, but I did the best that I could with what I was working with. I
That's
promise
right.
you that.
That's right. And that's what I say, because I ended up being admitted to a mental health facility and diagnosed with major depression and anxiety. And right around this time, my oldest son was like 12 or 13, 14, somewhere in there. And my youngest was 3. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like it was so much going on that I hadn't even talked about. Like you said, I was 32 years old when when this happened, when I was admitted. But I was molested from the age of like 6 or 7 all the way up to my teen years by a married family member. And I never told anybody. Somewhere when I was like 19 or 20, I think I mentioned it to one of my sisters, but other than that, I never told anybody. So at 32, I had a meltdown, a major meltdown. And I had bring all of this up, like you say, I was in therapy, and I realized I never talked about it. Like I was so busy worrying about my children and what I was not doing for them and what I could do better, and then other family issues and everything, but addressing that. So you think about it, look at all those years in between that I was carrying all of that. And then just boom, all of a sudden it came out. And then I started having the guilt, the mama guilt of not being good enough mother for my children. You know, when I'm have those days when I'll be deeply depressed, I couldn't even get up off the couch. And then the kids would suffer for that. So then I got beat over the head with that for years because I wasn't a good enough mother. So it's always something that we could look back on and say, I wish I had done that differently. But we can't go back and we can't change it. And so we just have to move on from here. And it took years before I talked with both of my sons and I apologized to them for the choices, the bad choices that I made. I said, I don't have control over everything in life. Honestly, I have control over very little. But I did have some choices I could have made differently that I didn't, and it affected you, and I apologize for that. And that's when the healing started for all of us, for all 3 of us. And so I feel the same thing for you and your daughter. I think, I know for a fact that the healing is taking place. It has already begun, but it's gonna it's going to go much deeper in a
Mhm.
short amount of time.
Yes.
Because the fact that you can talk about it says a lot, and that is like the first step. So I just want to encourage you about that, because everything's going to be fine.
Absolutely. Amen.
I believe God. Whew, okay. What is, I can get myself together if I start crying.
Okay.
In one sentence, what is a major life lesson that you've learned as a mother that you would share with other mothers?
One sentence. It's okay to apologize to the little girl inside of you for not treating her better.
That's beautiful. Because most of us, if we're honest, have had experiences in our childhood that were never addressed. Because, and I'm older than you, I'll be 60 this year, but I came up during a time when you just don't talk about it. And
Right.
I don't care who did it, why they did it. You just, some things you just don't discuss. And that little girl, she had to deal with that. She had to, and she didn't know how to deal with it. So she just dealt with it. And so what you just said is like powerful, because when I was finally able to confront and verbalize the things that I had dealt with in my childhood, even though I still had people in my life, family members even, that didn't want to talk about it. They were, that's what, that was years ago. Why are you talking about that now? But
Yeah.
I would talk about it to whoever would listen, because it was healing for me to talk about it. And
Right.
so, as a mother, like, we're so used to nourishing and nurturing other people that we don't do the same for ourselves.
Amen.
We don't think about what do I need to make me happy. It's always what do I need to do to make my family happy.
Right.
The other mother I was talking to earlier, she was using an example about sometimes you don't even have enough food to feed yourself, but you always make sure your children eat. Even if
Amen.
you had to go to bed hungry, you would make sure those
Mhm.
babies. And that's what we do. And sometimes to our own detriment, because
Yes.
it doesn't just apply to food, it applies to emotions. And sometimes we give all out we have inside, we give it all out, and then we have nothing left.
Amen. Yes.
So wow, that was wonder. Now that we've lived a little bit and we have a better understanding of motherhood, and I personally think it's a ministry all of itself. And I think that's why some people can't do it. Like, I don't believe that you have to be a Christian to be a good mother. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But because I know some who are Christians that are not good mothers, because all they see is the discipline part, the punishment part. Um, I'm the mother, you do what I tell you to do. There's no relationship, no intimacy with the children, just like a strong hand of discipline. And I saw with a mother every mother has their own mothering style, I call it. One of
Yes.
the mothers I spoke with, it was fascinating to me because I never heard anybody say this. But her mothering style is that she is the queen of the house. Okay. And the children are there to serve her. Like, they need to do whatever they can do for themselves and not rely on her to do everything for them. And then when she needs something, they are there to give her what she needs. Like, once they start working, stuff like that, there to give her money or whatever. And I never heard anybody put it quite that way. Like, she was like, like, I didn't baby my kids. I didn't, like, oh, you poor thing. I would just be like, okay, you hurt, get up, get yourself together and keep it going, because you're gonna get hurt more times than that. And I was like, because I was a total opposite. Like, people will always accuse me that, like, that boy gonna grow up and be a punk because you always hugging him and kissing him and babying him, and I just be like, what? So what would you say was your mothering style?
My mothering style was nurture, not to. Now, granted, I did have my kids doing stuff for me too. Go get me a bottle of water out the refrigerator, go get, go get my slippers, things like that. But I always told them, how capable they were. I always tried to pour into them because, again, I'm still thinking I didn't get these things. My mother was a steel hand also. She was a single parent. So you can only imagine her trying to raise 3 children, and she don't have no whole lot of time for all this lovey-dovey stuff, because her mother died when she was 14. So
oh wow.
She was the baby of the baby out of her siblings. So, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to tell my kids I love them every day, even when they make me mad. Yes, I have had to beat some behinds before, but that's not the only way. And when I talk to my kids, or if they ask me something, I may say no, but I always give an explanation as to why it is no. Yeah. Not unlike my mother, because I said so.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's no understanding, which made me want to go do it more, because I just feel like now I gotta go rogue.
Now I gotta do it. No try, I have no choice now.
What you mean? Yeah. I don't even understand what because you said
I totally get that. Yeah,
but I
so I totally understand that, and that's why a lot of us in my age group, we didn't really have close relationships with our mothers to the point where you knew she was going to make sure you ate and that you had clean clothes and stuff like that. But to go sit down and say, something's bothering me, can we talk? Right. No, we wasn't doing that.
Nope. Right.
We wasn't doing that. So I didn't. So I'm like you. I said, when I had children, I had my first son, because it's 12 and a half years between my kids. Mm-hmm. So when I had the first one, I was determined my son is I'm always going to be telling him I love him. I'm going to tell him how much he means to me. I'm going to tell him he's handsome. I'm going to tell him he's smart, all of that. And in addition to that, being a single mom, his father died when he was 10 months old. So he didn't have that piece in there at all. And so I just was determined he's not going to want for anything. I'm going to make sure, he's okay. Right. But then I saw it kind of going left because he was the first grandchild. And the first boy, because my mom had all girls. So he was the first boy born in the family. So they just kind of took over, and whatever I said he couldn't do, they be like, oh, he can do it, leave him alone. And it got to the point where he would say to me, if I say you can't do such and such thing, he was like, my mom said I could do it, or Papa said I could do it. And he just going about his business. So I had to learn with the second one, I had to learn the balance. Like, I'm not going to be a firm hand, like you scared to even breathe when I'm walking the room. But at the same time, I'm not going to be so, oh, I just love you so much, I could just eat you all up. You can just do whatever you want to do. Mommy loves you. No, we're not doing that either. So in the middle of the road with that. Now my son is upset with me because he says I'm totally different with my grandson. Because he can just do whatever he want to do. And when I FaceTime with them, because they live out of state, the whole time he's doing stuff he has no business. I just find it hysterical. Like, I'm just laughing and laughing. And my son is like, why are you laughing, Mom? It's not funny. And I'm like, it's funny. I don't know why it's funny to me, but it is. Part of it is because it's payback for all the stuff you did. And secondly, I guess it's a grandmother thing, because the way your grandparents always, I used to get mad at the way they let y'all do stuff. Now I can see why they did that. Like, I just think it's hysterical that he threw his dad's phone in the trash the other day, and they looked for it for 2 hours. And then, of course, they kept asking him where it was, and he jibber jabbered. They don't know what he was saying. So finally, my son said, something told him to go look in the trash. He looked in the trash, and there was the phone. When my son pulls the phone out the trash can, my grandfather starts clapping. That cracked me up. And he was like, Mom, what is so funny? So one thing, like they're teaching him, but he finished with stuff, put it in the trash or whatever. So
Mhm.
or put his toys up, and every time he does something, they clap and say, good job. So
Yes.
when my son got the chat phone out of the trash, and he was just saying, good job.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, it's a whole different story with being a grandma.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yes, it is.
So is there anything else that you would like to share? If you were able to talk with single mothers, because I deal with a lot of single mothers right now in this pandemic is extremely challenging.
Right.
Education, you know, we got the kids doing the virtual learning, and a lot of them are just not cut out for it. And the mothers are there trying to work with them, and they are frustrated because they can't, you know, they can't help their child, and it's frustrating to not see your child need help and you can't help them.
Right. Mhm.
Then they, you know, sometimes we have these single mothers that I talk with, and it's like you said earlier, they're in these relationships that are not healthy, but
Mhm.
because of the children, they stay.
Yes.
So they're suffering, and the children, because I've said this and someone got upset with me because they were, you know, saying that a child does best in a two-parent home, no matter what the home is like. And I disagree with that. Children need to be in loving environments. It doesn't matter if it's both parents or one parent, they
Right.
need a loving environment. And if
Mhm.
you can't provide that with that other person there, you don't need to
Right.
be there just to say, I'm here.
Right.
The child is still suffering. So if you
Right.
could speak to a mother, these mothers that are watching, and what is one message that you would like to give to them?
I absolutely concur with the statement that you made that, like I said, I lived it. I was in a marriage that I should have not been in as long as I was in, thinking I was doing the best thing for my children, just for them to be able to gloat, you know, that our mommy and daddy lives together. You know, we're all one family, one happy family, because what I have two children, totally different night and day. There's one who is extremely vocal, and then there's one child who she just takes everything in and she doesn't release anything, but she takes in a lot. And I promise you, it's not a good thing if you're in a home, in an abusive home, if you're in a home where there's a lot of infidelity, so you know there is no peace in the home. It is not the best to stay just because of the children. Children are resilient. I had to learn that for myself with my 14-year-old when I left when I left my children's father, even though the other two were pretty much grown. She bounced back so quickly. And she said, you know, Mom, I really love you and I really love Dad. And I'm okay with going to two houses because there's peace when she gets to whichever house she needs to go to. And plus, that allowed me to actually give even more back to them, because I had grandchildren coming into the world, and I do not want them to relive the same hell that I lived in for so many years, the same very things that I see my kids doing. I'm like, how is it that you just want to be with this opposite sex, just to be with somebody, just to say you have someone, when they're treating you like the worst of the worst? I said, you were mad at me because I stayed, but I see that you're going through and enduring the same things that you saw mommy go through, but you were mad because I did. Then how come you're not mad enough with yourself to get out?
Yeah.
So I
And
figured out.
yeah, because at the end of the day, you have to have peace. I said, I would rather be by myself for the rest of my life and be able to get in my bed every night, say my prayers, and roll over and go to sleep, be at peace, than to have somebody else in the bed with me. And I'm just like, can't spend half the night cutting my eye at them, like, don't breathe in my direction.
Right.
Don't look over here. Like, oh, I've been there. Like, oh my God, why are you even still breathing?
Right.
Just
Absolutely.
because I want my children to have somebody in their life. That's
right.
no, that's not what we're doing anymore.
Right.
But I do want to thank you for spending this time and for sharing that part with us. It just reminded me and reaffirmed for me my assignment with working with mothers, because sometimes I get discouraged and like I feel like people know they have needs, like you're offering something to help them, but they won't even take it. Like it is not costing them anything. You're just giving it to them and they still won't take it. And so then you be like, okay, well, what's the point? Like I just stop. But as soon as I have those thoughts, then somebody comes along and says, you know, you said something the other day that really blessed me. Or I don't hardly respond or comment when you post things, but I just want you to know that I look forward to, you know, seeing you post. And it's like that all over again reminds you of the assignment that God gave you and the lives that you touch, that some people you will never ever meet, you may never talk to, but you've spoken a word to them. And like I say, mostly a lot of my focus is on the mothers and that area, but I just love people in general. And I want to see people happy and healthy. And I want to see people succeeding. And I just want everybody to be the best you can be. At any given moment, we need to be able to say, I am my best self right now.
Yes.
And I haven't always been able to say that. Like sometimes I'd be like, why am I even still alive? You know, I attempted suicide twice and obviously it didn't work. But but it's like you reach a point where you just say, I'd be better off dead than suffering like this, but I'm still here. And that lets me that I have purpose. And so again, I appreciate you. I know you, I see you posted, I know you're busy and got a lot going on, but I appreciate you taking time to come and speak with me today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with those listening before we go?
No, well, not too much. I just know that being a mother really is the greatest, one of the greatest blessings outside of salvation and Jesus, of course, that any woman could ever experience. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, nothing. It's just like when Paul asked, you know, what can separate me from the love of God?
Yes.
And I look at my children and I've been through it with them, but I'm like, it doesn't even matter. Nothing can separate a mother's love from their child. So I encourage you to just keep going and to continue to press forth. Truly, you know, the word of God even tells us that Jesus wasn't even accepted at his own home. So there's times that we get more support from strangers than we do from those that we know. And that is a discouragement within itself. However, when you get that reminder that there is still purpose for you and that the enemy can't kill what God has truly blessed, then you'll continue to press forth and just continue to lend your voice and continue to provide this platform for people just like me, normal mothers just like you. And I'm honored to have been asked. So I thank you for the opportunity to sit before you today. And I wish you the very best. God bless you and much love to you, sister.
Thank you so much. Oh, I love you and I appreciate you. Keep me in prayer. I'll be doing the same for you.
Okay, thank you so much. You take care, okay?
You too. We'll talk soon.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.